Hi everyone, what's up? Welcome back to my tutorial channel. It's Daniela here, and today I'm gonna talk about forward and prepaid forward contracts. In this video, I'm gonna first introduce the four main terms of the timing of stock purchase. Then I'm gonna show you how to calculate the prices for both forward and prepaid forward contracts. And finally, I'm gonna show you the synthetic forward. The targets of this lesson: first, recognize the four terms relating to the timing of stock purchase: outright purchase, fully leveraged purchase, prepaid forward purchase, and forward purchase. Then how to calculate the payoffs and the profits for both long and short position on forward contracts. How to calculate the prices for both forward contracts and prepaid forward contracts, assuming no dividends, continuous dividends, or discrete dividends. And finally, the synthetic forwards from underlying stock. Alright, first, the four terms relating to the timing of stock purchase. Number one, outright purchase. An outright purchase is an agreement to buy an excess S now by paying at the same times. So in short, the price S naught is observed at time zero. The buyer will have to pay at the time zero, and the seller delivers the asset at time zero. So everything have to be completed at time zero. The second contract is full leverage purchase. It is an agreement to buy an excess S and get it delivered now, but then pay later. Number three is prepaid forward contract. This is an agreement to buy an excess S and pay now, but the asset is delivered later. At time zero, the price S naught is observed. Then the buyer pays the prepaid forward price F0 TP of S at time zero. And then the seller delivers the asset to the buyer and pay the buyers at T at time T. The last contract is forward contract. It is an agreement to buy an asset S now but pay and the asset is delivered later. So at time zero, the price S naught is observed. The buyer pays the forward price F0T S at time T, and the seller delivers the asset to the buyer at time T. So we have four different terms relating to the timing of stock purchase. And the interest of this lesson is how to calculate the prepaid forward price and how to calculate the forward price. Now we are going to consider the payoffs and the profits of long and short position on forward contracts. The way we calculate the payoffs and profits is simple. We have to follow two rules. The first rule: for the short position, the initial cost and payoffs would be non-negative. The second rule is for a long position, the initial cost and payoffs would be non-negative. And here, short position and long position are not about the length of the term, but it is about whether you own the security or you owe the security. So long position here to refer to the case when you own security, and short position means the opposite. Example for short position: when you sell a bond at the market price $1,000.04, you receive cash, and we consider cash is a negative cost. After a year, you pay back the principal $1,100. This is a cash outflow because you have to pay out money. So this is also negative. So in this example, there is no aggregate net payoff at time 1 as things cancel. However, we earn 4 cents at time 0, so this is reckless profits. Reckless profits. Here we see this is a short position because you don't own the security. You sell the bond to get cash, right? And then after a year, you pay back the principal, which is a cash outflow. So both of these number, when you list on the table, it should be negative. They should be negative. And we see we earn 4 cents at time 0. This is a very, very small money, right? And usually in order to like increase the profits, we just have to scale up everything, like scale up all the transaction, make sure more and more people get involved into this type of transaction. And when more and more people sell bond, then the interest rates will fall down, and also the bond price is also drop. So in that case, the reckless profits would literally disappear. So that's how the first rule works. The second rule for a long position, the initial cost and payoff would be non-negative. This is just like the opposite, like sell and buy are two opposite situation. For long position, basically you own the security. So when you buy a 2-year bond, here example, when you buy a 2-year bond with a face value of $1,000 at the market price of $824. So at time 0, you pay $824, and remember cash is negative transaction. So you pay a negative cost, so the initial cost is positive. And after 2 years, you receive $1,000 face value. And this is a cash inflow, so it's also positive. That's why in this case I said for a long position, the initial cost and payoffs would be non-negative. And notice, long position means you own the security, and short position means the opposite. The opposite. All right. So choose only 2 rules for payoffs and profits for long short position on forward contract. Now let's consider how to calculate the prepaid forward price F0TS. Remember, in prepaid forward, the price S0 is observed at time 0. The buyer pays the seller the prepaid forward price F0TPS at time 0, and the seller delivers the assets to the buyer and pays the buyer at T at time T. So our question is how to calculate the prepaid forward price F0TP of S at time 0. So in order to calculate this amount, we use the law of one price. The law of one price is in an efficient market, all identical goods must have only one price, must have the same price. And we consider 3 different cases. The first case, when we have no dividend, that means we buy a stock with no dividend. It's called non-dividend paying stock. In this case, we got F0T prepaid should be S0. The second case, when we buy a stock index with a constant non-dividend yield rate delta. And in this case, FOT prepaid should be equal to e to the negative delta t times S0. Case 3, when we buy a stock that pay non-discrete dividends, we got FOT prepaid is equal to add naught subtract the present value of the dividend. Here I summarize the 3 formulas for 3 cases. But by looking at these 3 formulas, probably you don't know how we get this, how we get that. So we are going to, delve into each of these 3 cases. So the first case, non-dividend paying stock. That means we consider stock with no dividend. So we consider 2 investment strategies. The first strategy, buy one share at time 0 by paying S naught at time 0 and close the position at time t. That means at time 0 we buy, let's say, a stock. So we have to pay an amount S0 at time 0. And then at time t, we sell it and close the position at time t. And the second strategy is we enter into a prepaid forward for delivery of one share of stock at time t. So here we see that both strategies would give one share with payoff value of ST at time t. And by the law of one price, the prepaid forward price at time 0 should be the same with S0 at time 0. That means F0T S prepaid should be equal to S naught by the law of one price. Now in the second case, suppose we buy a stock index with a constant known dividend yield rate delta. So we consider two investment strategies. The second strategy should be the same with the second strategy in the third case, which have to amend the first strategy. In the first strategy, we amend a little bit. Like instead of buying one share at time 0, we buy e to the negative delta t share at time 0 with dividend being reinvested by buying additional shares. And the reason for it is we want to make sure at time t we got exactly one share. That's why instead of buying one share at time 0, we buy the present value of one share at time t. So at time 0, instead of buying one share, we buy e to the negative delta t. And then with the dividend earned, we reinvest them by buying additional shares. So here, the first strategy in the second case is different from the first strategy in the third case. However, in both strategies in the second case, we will have the same payoff at time t. And by the law of one price, the prepaid forward price at time 0 should be the same with e to the negative delta t S0 at time 0. Remember at time 0, we buy e to the negative delta t share, and each share is priced at S naught. So the amount that we have to pay to buy e to the negative delta t share is e to the negative delta t times S0. S0 here represents the price of one share. And e to the negative delta t here is the number of shares that we buy. So at time 0, we have to pay e to the negative delta t at 0. And by the law of one price, it should be the same with FOT prepaid of S at time 0. So that's why we have the second formula. And the first formula, the first case right here is considered as we don't know about the interest rate, the dividend rate. The second case is called the continuous dividend rate. And now we consider the discrete case. The third case, suppose we buy a stock paying non-discrete dividends. Instead of continuous dividends, we get paid discrete dividends. And we also have to consider two investment strategy. The second strategy is the same with the second strategy in the last two cases. But the first strategy, we amended the first strategy in the last two cases. So the first strategy here, we buy one share at time 0. And then with all the dividends earned, we invest them back into a risk-free interest rate, with a risk-free interest rate. And also borrow a loan of PVOTDIV at the risk-free interest rate. The PVOTDIV here is the present value of all the dividend earned from time 0 to time t. That's why we have PV. PV means present value. DIV is dividend. From 0 to t means we consider dividend earned from 0 to t. The stock position would be closed out at time t when the loan would be also repaid. The second strategy is the same with the second strategy in the last two cases. Enter into a prepay forward for delivery of one share of stock at time T. Now let's break it down. In this case, we assume that known amount of dividends are paid in the interval of time 0 to t. Suppose at time ti, a cash dividend of divi is paid out, and we consider many time frames between many time points between 0 and t and capital T. So the present of all dividends is denoted by PVOTDIV. PV here is the present value. OT here is representing the interval of time from 0 to capital T. DIV is the dividends. Basically, we find the present value of all dividends paid out between 0 and T. It is equal to summation of each to raised to R time capital T subtract TI's, the whole thing time with the amount dividend at time I, DIVI, and is equal to e to the RT time present value of the dividend. So for the first strategy, at time 0, you have to, the cost should be S0 subtract PVOTDIV. Because here when you buy the stock, you pay S0. And what you earned at time 0 is the present value of all dividends. So S0 is what you pay and present value of dividends is what you earn. That's why the amount, the cost at time 1 should be S0 subtract the present value of the dividends. And by doing so, also using the law of one price, we got FOTP, FOT prepaid should be equal to S0 subtract the present value of all dividends passed out between 0 and T. So that's how we got the three formulas. Let's consider example 1. The current value of a stock index is 100. The index pays dividends continuously at the rate of 3.5%, and the continuous compounded risk-free interest rate is 5%. You see, this is dividend paid continuously, so we have to consider the second case. You see that the keyword already tells us the second case. The index pays dividends continuously. That means the second case where we use delta, right? The third part, calculate the theoretical 6-month prepaid forward price. The second task, suppose that you observe a 6-month prepaid forward price of $98. Construct an arbitrage portfolio. So let's consider the first case. Here, remember, the current value of a stock index is 100. That means S0 is 100. And here we consider the index paid dividend continuously at rate 3.5%. So the initial cost should be S0 times e to the negative delta t. Here delta here is 3.5%, and capital T here is 6 months, and 6 months is half year, so T should be 0.5. See that? Not 6, because we consider year as a unit of time. So the theoretical 6-month prepaid forward price should be S0 e to the negative delta t by the second formula, by the K2 formulas. And it is 100 times e to the negative 0.035 times 0.5, which is 98.2652. So that means at time 0, you have to pay 98.2652 in order to get this amount of stock, right? Stock index. And the second part, suppose that you observe 6-month prepaid forward price of 98. Construct an arbitrage portfolio. Here, remember we have two strategies, right? Two strategies. The first strategy is buy e to the negative delta t units. And the second strategy is enter into a prepaid forward, right? So for the second here, I list the second strategy first. For the second strategy, we basically enter into a prepaid forward that deliver deliver at t a time t, right? And at t here is just at 0.5 because t is 6 months, which is 0.5. So the third line here is the second strategy in the second case. We enter into a prepaid forward that guaranteed to deliver at t at time 0.5 after 6 months. And the cost of time 0 is 98 because it's a prepaid forward price. This is FOTP. This is FOTP, and this is at T. See that? So cost of time 0 is 98, and the payoff after 6 months is S05, S0.5. Now the first strategies in the second line. We buy e to the negative delta t units. That means we buy e to the negative 0.035 times 0.5 units. And the cost of it is what we calculated in the first part, which is 98.2652. And then the payoff after 6 months is S05, is 0.5. Here remember when we buy, that means at time 0 we have to pay. That's why the value here is negative, right? We buy, so it's negative. We buy, so it should be negative because at time 0 we have to pay negative. We have to pay $98.2652, so it's negative. Then after 6 months, the payoff after 6 months we receive as 0.05. Yes, so here we got negative S 0.05. And the aggregate here, we basically take line subtract by line. So we got what? We got negative 0.2. We add up, so we got negative 2652 is the aggregate. See that? So this is how we construct the portfolio. Now, next, calculate the forward price. The forward price. Remember in prepaid forward, the price S0 is observed at time 0. The buyer pays the seller the forward price FOTS at time T. Here we don't have letter P on top of this amount because this is forward contract. It's not prepaid forward contract. So there's no P here. P represents for prepaid, and here we use forward. So FOTS at time T, and the seller delivered the assets to the buyer at time T. So the question of interest is how to calculate the forward price, which is FOT of S. Note that the forward price is paid at time T, but it is determined at time 0. For long position, the buyer's payoff at time T is at T subtract FOTS. And for short position, the seller payoff at time T is minus at T plus FOTS. Remember, buyer and seller, the opposite situation, long position and short position. The determination of forward price is simple. We got FOTS is equal to e to the RT FOTPS. Why is that? Remember for repay, we consider a time T, right? We consider a time T because the prepaid forward price is paid at time 0. Now for forward price, it is paid at time T. So basically the forward price is the prepaid forward price times with e to the RT. Alright, so let's consider the 3 cases of dividends. And we are going to compare between prepaid forward price and forward price. The first case, when there's no dividend, that means none, no dividends. The prepaid forward price should be S0, and the forward price we time with e to the RT because we bring it up to time T. Because instead of paying at time 0, we pay at time T. So we take S0 times e to the RT. For the discrete case, we got S0 subtract present value of dividends. S0 is what we have to pay at time 0, and PVOT div is the present value of the dividend earned between 0 to t, right? That's for prepaid forward price. Now for forward price, we have to take the whole thing multiplied by e to the rt because we bring them up to time t. So we got S0 times e to the rt minus e to the rt times the present value dividend. And then just derive the formula. We got S0 times e to the rt subtract the future value of the dividend at time t. See that? So from present value of time 0, we got future value of time t. FV means future value of the dividend. And then for continuous case, the prepaid forward price is S0 times e to the negative delta t. Remember at time 0, we buy e to the minus delta t unit. Instead of 1 unit, we buy e to the negative delta t unit. So that at time t, we got exactly 1 unit. For the forward price, we take the whole thing here, times with e to the rt. You see it, times e to the rt. And then derive it, we got S0 times e to the r subtract delta, then factor t. You see that? So basically, the forward price is the prepaid forward price times e to the rt. That's a common formula. And is applied for 3 of these cases of dividends, whether we have no dividend or discrete dividend or continuous dividend. All right, let's consider this example. Stock X is currently priced at 30 per share, and the company has announced that it is going to pay a dividend of 0.3 per share after 1 month and 3 months. The continuously compounded risk-free interest rate is 5%. Calculate the theoretical forward price for a forward on X that matures, A after 2 months and B after 4 months. So here, let's figure out the keywords to figure out what type of question it is. Here we have continuous compound interest risk-free rate. So it is the continuous case, right? That is the continuous case. That's the continuous case. And also, we got the dividend is paid after 1 month and 3 months, right? So in the first part, after 2 months, we got only 1 dividend. For the second part, after 4 months, we got 2 dividends. So they are different. See that? Now let's consider the first case, after 2 months. After 2 months, there is only one dividend within 2 months, right? So here apply the formula. We got S0 times e to the rt subtract e to the rt times the present value of the dividend. And here S0 is 30, right? S0 is 30. R is the risk-free interest rate, 5%. See that? T here is 2 months. 2 months is 2 over 12 year, right? 2 over 12. And the dividend here is 0.3. See that? So just plug into the equation. S0 is 30. E to the RT is e to the 0.05 over 12 times 2 because T is 2 over 12 and R is 0.05. And then the second term, the present value of the dividends, we got e to the RT is e to the 0.05 times 1 over 12. And the present value of the dividends is just 0.3. See that? 0.3. We got only 1 dividend after 2 months. And then the answer is 29.9498. Now after 4 months, there are 2 dividends. We got 1 dividend after 1 month, and the second dividend is after 3 months. So here, just follow the formula. First, S0 is 30, right? E to the RT is e to the 0.05 over 3, because 4 months, 4 over 12 is 1/3. So T is 1/3. So the first term here is 30 times e to the 0.05 times 1/3. And then the second term is e to the 0.05 times 0.3 e to the 1 over 12 plus 0.3 times e to the 3 over 12, because we got one dividend after 1 month and the second dividend after 3 months. So we got 29.8992. Basically, just follow the formulas. See that? And here we see that why we use the discrete case, because we got dividend payout at time 1 month later and 3 months later. They are discrete time. It's not the dividend isn't wasn't paid continuously, right? The continuous term here is represented for the interest rate. See that? All right, now synthetic forward. Now let's look at the synthetic forward from the underlying stock and risk-free assets by identifying arbitrate opportunities when the synthetic forward price is different from the market forward price. Here we got 3 types of dividends, right? When for the stock that has no dividend, for the index with a constant dividend yield delta, and discrete cash dividend. So for the stock with no dividend, basically we borrow as not at rate R to buy one share. So we buy one share at the price S naught, and in case we don't have money, we have to borrow. So we have to borrow S0 to buy one share, and at time T, the stock position is at T, right? Because at time T we got at T, and the cash position we have to repay S0 times e to the RT. That's a this is the forward price, right? Forward price. So we add them up, we got FT subtract FOTS. And then for the second case, for the index with constant dividend yield delta, we borrow an amount of S naught times e to the negative delta t at time R at rate R to buy e to the negative delta t shares, and reinvest dividends by purchasing actual units. So here for the stock position at time T, we also got the payout amount of at T. For the cash position, we have to repay e to the negative delta t times S0 times e to the RT, because we borrow, right? We borrow S0 e to the negative delta t at time 0. So at time T, we have to repay e to the negative delta t is S naught times e to the RT. E to the RT is the factor that brings the value at time 0 to time T. And this is FOTS. That means future value. And if we add them up, we got FT subtract FOTS, because one is positive, one is negative, right? And then for the stock with discrete cash dividend, we borrow as not at time R to buy one share and reinvest cash dividends at the risk-free rate R. So the stock position here is FT plus FVOT dividend, because at time T, we got the payoff amount is at T, and we got the future value of the dividends. See that? And the repay is S0 e to the RT. So we add them up, we got FT subtract S0 e to the RT subtract FVOT dividend in the brackets, in the right bracket, and it is equal to FT subtract FOTS. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching my video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you on the next video. Bye bye.